does law enforcement look like in an independent Alberta? Are people innocent until proven guilty? And we're going to start with Pastor Art. You have 2 minutes.
100%. I mean, look at me. I have become a victim of this crazy, corrupted government. I spent 2 months in prison. And of course, as you know, I have been vindicated by the 3-panel Supreme Court in Alberta. And yet I did spend that time in prison. I was subjected to cruelty. I was subjected to torture. They put me in metal cages like a dog. They stripped me naked. They kept me in solitary confinement. And I'm charged with terrorism. Why? Because I dared to tell the truckers, hold the line, do not quit. Because I dare to say to our children, the freedoms are important. And for that, this government has put me in prison. The notion of innocent before proven guilty was completely kicked out from our so-called justice system, is what they said. Well, no, for me, a totally different law for me. I was arrested for opening church with my brother David in the middle of a highway by a SWAT team, and yet 2 days after, Jason Kennedy, that corrupted snake, which is cabinet ministers, what did she do? He parties at the Sky Palace, drinking, sipping whiskey with his cabinet ministers, breaking the same rules and regulations.
Yeah.
I don't see Jason Kennedy. That's what I said to the judge. If you found me guilty, I hope Jason Kennedy is next door in next cell. He should be. Because you better understand, we have entered a totally new system. They are the wannabe tyrants, they are the new pharaohs, and they consider you and me like slaves. So what we need sheriffs, we need a new form, we need our own police force, we need to elect judges, not appoint them by crooked politicians.
Thank you.
Certainly, I also believe that we should embrace the notion of being innocent before being found guilty. In fact, I think that unless somebody proposes a public threat, that we shouldn't be able to know about these charges until an actual conviction occurs. We see too many times these charges are laid against people, and just by mere fact that they are laid against somebody can ruin their life. And so I think we need to be very careful about that. You know, I think that we have this opportunity to do really anything that we choose. Constitutional sheriffs are certainly one of them, and a police force as well. But we need to allocate our resources properly to make sure that the police or these constitutional sheriffs are staying in their lane so that they're able to do the jobs that they're assigned to do and not do a myriad of things that waste their time. You know, police are more often social workers now, as I've said in my opening statements, than they are police officers. But we can implement grand juries, we can elect judges, and so, but we need to also integrate into our society, into our education system. We need to tell our children about our laws. If we expect to be a society governed by the rule of law and principles that recognize the supremacy of God, we need to educate people about what that means. And that means we have to educate our children in our school system about the Constitution, about any tax law, about the criminal code. Because these people, my children certainly, don't learn that in school. And so it all has to be an integrated thing that we need to do together. But I don't see it changing much more than what we experience right now in Canada, but without the corruption.
I want to add this, that in a free and democratic society, there has to be check and balances, and we've lost that. There is zero accountability. Those people can do whatever they want. The judges rule as they please. No one, it seems, is following the rule of law anymore. So we need to bring those checks and balances back to our justice system, back to the police force, and we will not be able to do it until we elect our own force and we elect our own judges, because the judges that we have right now are not judging, they're not following the law and order, they're political activists, and we have to end that.
One of the things that the TIP policies have put forward in the last the policy convention was the notion that, you know, these unelected officials, even though I do believe judges should be elected, but these elected officials and unelected officials would be subject to annual reviews, and judges would be similar to that and would experience the same sort of scrutiny that we would expect any person with a job to go under. So those are kind of the things that you will get with an independence-minded government, with the Independence Party. And we welcome also your ideas because, you know, we're two people. And it's not about just us and what we think, but it's about really what we all think and how we're all going to come together to fix this interesting quagmire that we find ourselves in. But again, I agree with Pastor Art, we need to have a system of accountability. And I think that what you'll see if you read through our policies, and as I've stated, that we've proposed some good solutions in there and here today. Thanks.
Every judge, every prosecutor, every chief of police, every person that partook in this sham of a justice system should be fired and brought to justice.
Okay. So the next question. The Independence Party is a small party. Assuming the party is not voted in as a majority, how would you, as leader, try to influence a referendum on independence with the new majority government?
Well, we need to expose the lies. I'm assuming I'm going first.
Yes.
You are correct.
Yeah, well, we need to come up with a plan that's going to target the media, and we need to expose these lies and corruptions. And one effective way of a person who has a minority interest in government or otherwise, we can use tools at our disposal, such as freedom of information requests, etc., and make sure that we're staying on top of it, doing the research that we need to get the message and to expose the lies and tell the truth to the people. What is happening on a daily basis. The other thing we can do is, it may be not as effective as forming a majority government. We can implement private members' bills. We can implement petitions. But you understand that this is the reason why it's so important that we must have a majority government next election. Because we've been doing this and staying on the same old without any success. And so we cannot keep on doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So we need to unify, and that's really the only solution with this. We need to hit the pavement hard, and we need to get to every single Albertan, and we need to tell them about the merits of independence. We need to tell them that their life is going to be better with an independence party and an independence-minded government. Because right now, we're running out of time, and there are going to be no other solutions left for us if we don't address this head on and right now.
Well, sometimes I laugh when our Prime Minister, in quotes, would call us fringe minority. Coming especially from the little potato is kind of interesting. But I want to remind you that David was little too. David was small, just a boy. And yet he faced the giants of that time. And it says that he did run towards the giant using what was given to him by God himself. So I personally joined this party because it was small, because I understood that there's no potential for enemies sneaking in and taking over. The infiltration of the communists most likely was not here because it was too small for them. So I've chosen the French minority, if you will, according to little potato. So and that's what I love about this party, because we can build this together. You see, here's what I fear. I don't want to change one tyrant with another tyrant. Right? And history is teaching us that this might happen. Yeah. Therefore, we have to prove the checks and balances. We have to make everything accountable. We have to make sure that the MLAs that will run for this party will sign a document, anti-corruption document. If they're caught, for example, taking bribes, they will immediately be taken down. If someone from the private sector is caught bribing politicians, he will not be able to do business with the government for, let's say, 10 years. We need anti-corruption force as well, checks and balances, accountability. And just because this party is small, I actually like it. I like because we can build this party together with everything we want the party to stand for.
Let me ask you something. In 2015, when the NDP government swept, were things good or bad then? Bad. Do you think that they're worse now or better? Okay, so I've been saying, voting for the lesser of two evils is still voting for evil, right? Yeah. And so this is our opportunity because we have created this opportunity in front of us where everything is culminating together, right? We have the globalists exposed. We understand that the parties are all beholden to these globalist masters, okay? You vote NDP, you get the globalists. You vote the UCP, you get the globalists, okay? And so I think, and I'm encouraged by history, and Alberta in particular, because if NDP can sweep Alberta, think about that, then the Independence Party can sweep Alberta in 2020.
Well, we are building this party on 4 main points: mandate freedom, gun freedom, tax freedom, and stand up for freedom. If we can achieve those 4 things, which we can, because let me ask you this question: whose country is this? There you go. Then let's stand up for our country, and if you don't want to do it for yourself, let's do it for our children. And once NDP, they were small, liberals were small, conservatives were small, they started somewhere. So let's not this little party idea, let's not this deter you from the possibilities that God has given us.
All right, so we'll ask the next question here. The Independence Party says it will reduce the level of bureaucracy in all government and services.
Yes.
What will you do to those people displaced by the removal of those bureaucratic jobs? I believe we're starting with Pastor.
I would say get a job. If I can survive in the private sector, so they can. I mean, if you have a head, 2 arms, and 2 legs, well, take a shovel for a change. Taste how real work looks and feels like. Right? I mean, who those people think they are, that they're somehow better? You know what I love about this party? That we're not professional politicians. Friends, you don't want professional politicians. You don't want career politicians. And I understand we're not polished. You see, those people, and I have been watching the debates right now, and I want to puke. I just want to puke. I can't even go with one sitting and listen to those professional pathological liars. I just can't. I can't stand it. I have to dose myself with this filth, every day a little bit, because I can't stand it. They're professional. They will tell you what you want to hear, and they use a very clever, nice language to do so. But the moment they're elected, they do the same thing. They just do whatever they want. They're greedy dogs, filling their own bellies. While they were telling you and me that we are in this together, they were giving themselves a happy paycheck raise. When they were destroying our loved ones, they were giving themselves bonuses, and they dared to look into our eyes and tell you and me, we are in this together. Yeah. This has to stop. Yeah. It can stop. We can stop it. Yeah. Yeah. It stops.
Well, it's not the government's job to create jobs for people. We create an environment, a regulatory environment, and a situation to allow you all to create and participate in this economy. So the idea that the government is to create jobs for anybody, we have to recognize what that means. It means that all of you here and out there are going to pay for it, right? And so I envision these employees being dealt with as would any other employee be dealt with in a similar situation. They'll have a contract, and it will either be through a union or it will be a private contract, and they will be severed according to the rule of law, unless we find out that they were culpable and a part of this tyranny and whatever else they've been involved with when we do our investigation, our public inquiry, when we get elected as a majority government, which will do an in-depth analysis and review and investigation into what has happened the last 2 years, and we will hold these people accountable. So they don't get their severance payment when they get let go. They get a jail sentence.
I'll go even further. We have to confiscate what they have stolen from us for the past 3 years. Corrupted, compromised government creates lazy bureaucrats. And that's what we have been seeing for the past decades, because this is not, the COVID just revealed, showed us who those people really are, but this was going on for a very long time. It needs to stop.
Alrighty, now we're going to move on to the undetermined questions. So we're going straight to one off the floor. As you are aware, we had a visitor here in Grande Prairie. President Raylan here was here. What are your thoughts on the caribou migration south of Grande Prairie and the impact on the oil field and logging industries? Catherine, you were.
Well, first of all, bravo to that beautiful YouTube that I saw.
If we take this work we got, this platform is how we're going to do it.
You know, I've been saying throughout the debates on many occasions that, you know, we have to make a decision as citizens whether or not we're going to continue to buy in to the climate hoax BS. Okay? So, we know where this is coming from. It came from Stephen Harper. He signed us on to the Paris Climate Accord.
Yes.
He signed us on to the international health regulations. We are part of the World Economic Forum because of who? Stephen Harper. Okay, so we know that. Now we know that we have no autonomy, okay? And we will continue to have none with remaining within Canada. And so we need to say no. And that's why separation is so important, because with this ESG stuff that's coming, you know, these environmental sustainable goals and all these SDGs, they're not only impacting our environment and industry like we've seen with underhanded politicians coming to Alberta with their dirty agenda to ruin our lives. They're also preventing businesses from flourishing because they're having a direct impact on businesses being able to retain capital without having to sell out to the woke agenda that's required of them, these made-up rules that they get rated on, and then therefore if they're not equitable, inclusive, or diverse enough, they don't get access to capital and funding. So this is a huge problem, but we have to decide as a population to say no more to this climate change hoax. Yeah. And so all of us, our companies, our people, we need to say no now. And if we continue down this road, we know exactly what's going to happen. Another 4 years of absolute misery.
We have been subjected to this indoctrination for decades. I don't remember Aldor. I remember listening to this psychopath, and he would say that we are in the middle of climate change. Well, climate change was happening for thousands of years and will happen for thousands of years more unless Jesus comes back sooner. So, because now we are hearing global warming. Let me ask you this question. What is more important to you, Carib or your children?
Children.
I mean, it's a simple question. We can look at the animals, we can look at the impact, but in the end of the day, they have an agenda, and it's a hoax, it's a lie, it's a clear, fat lie. We can make things work. We can combine protection for our wildlife, and we have been doing very good job so far. I mean, Canada, I don't know if you're aware, has one of the best wildlife protection acts on earth. I mean, we're incredible. We're good at protecting animals, we're horrible at protecting our children. And we have to start protecting the future of this country. I mean, seriously, I love Caribous, especially, on my plate. Okay, I get it, I understand. I love animals. As a hunter, I love animals. The more, the better. However, there are certain things that are more important than the caribou and migration and the polar bears. I remember when the hoax started, just to steal our money, the money from our children, the future from our children. I remember when those pathological liars were telling us that we don't have polar bears anymore. There's less and less. And then I listened to a wildlife officer from North. He says we have more than ever. There are actually hybrids right now. They're moving to the forest. I'm sick of it. Are you sick of this? Enough of caribous, enough of wild pigs, enough of all those different things. Let's just focus on our children and the future of those children.
But going back to something that I said, I talked about in my opening statements, this really gets it. Most of the people out there and wherever I'm looking at right now get it. But we need to reach the people in order for us to do this. We need to reach the people who still need more information, who still need to be told the truth. And so this is what the next phase of this plan has to entail. It has to be recruiting people, and it has to be boots on the ground. Every single member of the Independence Party needs to tell 10 people, and they need to tell 10 people. Yeah. And we need to go door to door, and we need money. We need money so that we can expose the lies. We need to inform Albertans. We need to tell them exactly what's going on, because look at, Albertans are smart people. And when they realize what is happening, because the mainstream media and the government rhetoric completely stifles this conversation. In fact, people lose their jobs, they're vilified, they're canceled. We have to lead by example, and we have to be the party that brings this truth and this practical, legal, and peaceful solution to the people. But we can only do this collectively as individuals, but we have to do it now.
Create our own media platform. No more censorship, no more platforming people that are telling the other side of the story. Since when? Right now in Canada, we have only one side, and the other one is not allowed. That sounds like communism. That sounds like fascism. That sounds like the country that I escaped from, where only one party was allowed to express their views. In Poland, behind the Iron Curtain, when you were caught with one pamphlet that was not approved by the Communist Party, 1 year prison. If you were caught listening to European radio, 5 years of imprisonment. And of course, after you were tortured, just like I was tortured in prison here under the leadership of Jason Kenney. So we have to have our own platform. That's where we will be able to communicate the message with the real evidence and real science, because what they're giving right now is not real science, it's propaganda.
So we have a few questions that kind of relate to, I'm going to say, government and trust. And we certainly have lost the trust in government over the last little while, both federally, provincially, and municipally. So here's the question. How can we be assured that no representatives of the Independence Party are not involved with any of the UN, WEF, and WHO? And we'll start with Pastor Art.
How about we create a document, that's why we need lawyers. Create a document that every MLA or potential MLA has to sign. I mean, when you have an independent country, when you have independent region, you dictate what kind of leaders are going to be ruling over you. Because what happened with the concept of being a minister, you know what a minister means? It means a servant. You know the prime minister actually means the first servant. We've lost that. They're not servants. You see, you're laughing. I understand because I'm laughing as well. Like when I look at them, they're greedy dogs. They're not serving anyone except their own bellies. We've lost that concept that the politician was supposed to serve people. And that's what I do for the past 23 years. I have been serving my community, feeding thousands of people on the streets of Calgary, native reserves. During the COVID, we've never shut down. We kept feeding people. The government was telling us it's illegal, it's illegal. And I say, well, then the hell with your laws. Because your laws are illegal. And they came from the people. So we have to have strong leadership. We have to have people that are willing to sign the document. Even potential MLA comes and says, well, I'm not signing this. Well, obviously you have an agenda. Obviously you are not fit to represent us because we Albertans are saying no to the globalist agendas. Right. We're saying no to bugs. We're saying yes to Alberta beef. That's right. You want to eat my bugs and worms and crickets? Be my guest. Take another portion, triple portion. I keep my Alberta steak. It's the best on earth.
Well, of course, we have vetting processes, but I agree with that we do need some sort of accountability from the people themselves. But it's not going to be enough, I submit, to just have them sign a piece of paper. There has to be actually real consequences for when we find out if they have in fact lied. There has to be real consequences built into the legislation to ensure that they're held accountable and they're kicked out immediately. But you know what I love about this party is that this party has already taken action such as this. This party actually not so long ago revoked the membership of a member for not having the same values and ethics and for acting in a way that the board felt was not in keeping with what we at the Independence Party wants to do. And it's that sort of leadership that you can expect from this party going forward to ensure that people of integrity are put, and yourselves included, that we are going to demonstrate through our actions the type of person that we are, and that these people, when they are exposed, will be held accountable. You know, we're not going to be able to catch all of them, but we are going to be able to have, everything will be alerted, and we will have mechanisms in place like we already do within our party to make sure that these people are rooted and expelled out. But the other thing that the TIP policies state is that these annual reviews will be incorporated. One of the policies that we put forward that I supported was that any MLA who's seeking a third consecutive term would have to justify why they should have a third consecutive term. And this will be one of the mechanisms that we implement to ensure that these career politicians, you know, right, have a tendency to not act in our best interests are appropriately dealt with.
You know, let me read something about the Republic. I mean, the idea of a Republic is very appealing to me. And as you know, I am a friend with the United States. I think you should be friendly with your neighbors, especially powerful neighbors that can potentially bring billions, trillions of dollars into your economy for your children to enjoy for the next generation. But here is what appeals to me, you know, when it comes to Republic. Republic protects individual rights in Constitution despite majority rule. less tyranny, less impulsive. And here is a good one, rural protected from urban vote concentration. Right? We should have something like this. We can have a mob or city mob rules, and the rest of us in rural Alberta are left behind. Check on mob rule, passion, short-sightedness, rashness, representatives debate bills. Next, net taxpayers vote, not wards of the state or criminals. Tax-paying Albertans should have a say. So all of those things need to be incorporated into this new Alberta that we are building, and that's why it is such a great opportunity, because the party is so small that we can put that input together and build this power horse that will tackle those, I don't want to say it, but I have in my heart, not very good people.
In addition, I believe that we have to reduce government. We have to reduce the size of government. We have to get rid of a lot of the ministries that may or may not be worthwhile. And so my preference for my family is that the government leaves me alone. My preference for my family is that my community gets to decide what my community wants and feels is best for my community. What I want for my life is I want to be able to go to the butcher on my own, and I want that butcher to be able to sell me food without government interference and regulation. So we need a system of government that where the responsibility and people have the ability to take back control over the basic fundamental aspects of their life without interference of government. And this type of grassroots, community-driven philosophy will help root out the people who sit in the palace, wherever they are, that sky palace, making decisions. They will prevent people like Christian Freeland from coming here, skulking into Alberta to make these backroom side deals that have no business in Alberta. So when we that is when the government loses its power to be infiltrated. Because we can also do things, and what I think is important is that we should be having more referendums and more regularly, so that we can understand exactly what you, the people, what me, as an individual, wants with respect to how we're going to conduct ourselves as this new nation.
You know that Alberta used to have premiers that were advocating for small government? William Aberhart, Ernest Manning. 25 years as premier and a pastor, preaching on Sunday to 600,000 listeners every single week. Those people are always advocating smaller government, less intrusive government. Right now we have a government that wants to know what you do in your bed. And I'm thinking to myself, it was not this little potato's father that said that the government has no place in our bedrooms. If I remember correctly, was that not Pierre Trudeau's idea when he went the other way, when he wanted something else, perversion into our schools, perversion in, indoctrination of our children. And now his son is flipping, totally from a different angle. And he wants to know what I do in my bed. Listen, anyone that wants to do what I do in my bed is a pervert. That's right. I'm not sorry. So we have to cut this beast that is eating us alive, this enormous, huge, bureaucratic dog, greedy dog that is just devouring everything on his path. And we can do it.
Yeah.
So this question is about self-governing tax base. What would be your position on healthcare, government-funded programs such as maternity leave, unemployment insurance, and WCB?
Well, in a new nation that we want to create, those sorts of social services, of course, need to be there for people because, let's face it, although I believe that we all should be treated equal and have equal opportunity, the reality is that we are not all going to be able to afford myriad of things. So we need to be also a government of compassion and support as well. And so we get this question often about whether or not we'll have our own pension. Yes. Whether or not we'll have our own employment insurance. Yes. And so these systems will still continue for Albertans. However, I think what I envision is an Alberta that actually helps people. So it's a hand, not a hand out, but a hand up, right? Yeah. And we need to build this and motivate people to become productive citizens. You know, I'm a recovered alcoholic of 12 years, and one of the basic things and referring to that disease as a whole is soul disease. And as part of that, people need to feel productive. People need to be part of community. That's how you deal in large part with addiction and mental illness. They have to feel a part of it. And so we need to address this. Like, we have major issues here in Alberta that go beyond, and around the world, that go beyond just what we're talking about here tonight. People are suffering. We have a big opioid problem. We have a big homelessness problem, as Pastor Art knows. So we need to create a world where people thrive, right? Where they feel part of the community, where nobody is left behind.
Well, we need choices. You know what I love about the United States of America is that they have plenty of choices. For example, they have private clinics. Why not? My mom is waiting for years. She's on dialysis. When I was in prison, she was dying. And of course, through COVID, my father could not even see her. My brother could not even see her. She's on the list to have, an operation that would eventually save her life. But if we had an option and I could take my mom to a private clinic, like in Mexico, you could do it. In Mexico, out of all the places you can do that, but you cannot do it in, Canada or in the United States, I probably would raise the funds and save my mom because I don't know if she will make it another year or 2 years. Yeah. Also, education system. I am a strong advocate for private schools, for homeschooling. Instead of sending our children to an indoctrination machinery, I want to take the kids out of that propaganda indoctrination list and give them to the teachers that just lost their jobs. They would be the best to teach our children. Favor ties with World Health Organization. Reign in the College of Physicians and Surgeons. Appreciate natural medicine. Be a skeptic with big pharma. I mean, it's very delicately put. Whistleblower protection. Yeah. Every time someone wants to tell us, the public, what is really going on, there should be a government protection on that individual. But we've lost all of that because we're dealing with tyrants. And tyrants are like cancer. They need to be cut out. Yeah.
Well, I agree. I mean, we've kind of been joking the whole time about, we're not actually opponents here. We actually believe in many of the same things, right? And we need to, we need to focus on health care, preventative measures, different measures. We can't rely, and I think we've learned that Rockefeller-style medicine doesn't work at all. It never did. And in fact, it's making things worse, right? Yeah. And so we know that. The wonderful thing about COVID, the blessings about COVID, apart from bringing us all together here today, is that it has enlightened us. Yep. And we are going to look back at this time in our lives, and we are going to be grateful. despite how difficult and challenging it is, right? Because we are going to change the world. And we already are. And we already are with the parallel society. In the meantime, until we do form a majority government, we are going to be the community that comes together, and we are going to be the community that supports one another, that's going to provide this alternative mechanism. And we can grow that alternative way of life, providing organic, real food, not the processed stuff. Holistic healthcare. Parent-led and sanctioned education. Right? Yeah. So these are all the fundamental values that we believe are in this party. And we know that we can do this together, but like I said, I want to reiterate, it's going to take all hands on deck to do this. Yeah. But we can do it, because you know what? I'm terrified for my children, and I don't want them growing up in a place like we have now. I don't want them to be subjected to this digital ID and all the rest of the nonsense that's coming down the pipe.
There is absolutely nothing healthy in our healthcare system. I've never seen, and I worked on the streets for 23 years with drug pushers, dealers, drug addicts, alcoholics, and I'm telling you, I've never seen a bigger drug pusher than Alberta government. They are pushing drugs left and right. When you go to a doctor, it used to be that he did everything in his power, or her power, to actually make you better. Not hooked on drugs. Right now is a totally different story. The first thing they will tell you is like, what kind of a pill do you want? I don't want your stinking pills. I want you to help me not to be hooked on drugs. Yeah. When I was in prison, it was a very interesting thing because I never knew that. I'm a new career, criminal. So I'm learning as I go. And then when I was locked over there, every single day, twice a day, they would come to me, the guards and the nurses, not the inmates, with drugs, fentanyl, cocaine. Every single day, I was being offered heavy drugs and highly addictive drugs. My eyes got open. We're dealing with a beast that wants to destroy us, not a beast that wants to protect us.
There are a few questions that, I'm not going to say they're questions, they're more just discussion points. So I think the easiest way is, this is not a question, but what we would like to know from each of the candidates is explain how we would actually become an independent nation. Now, I'm going to paraphrase that just a little bit, because if you go to the Independence Party Alberta website, they do list off some steps and some policies. But this is a question that's been asked by many people, so I think it's good to hear from the candidates directly. So we'll start with Pastor.
Well, first of all, what is independence? Why are we even here? Because we are sick and tired of tyranny. We're sick and tired of the government overreach. We're sick and tired of Ottawa telling us how we are to live our lives while they are thousands of miles away.
Yeah, right.
How they're there. Yeah. So, what is independence? We want to be independent from them. We want to be able to cherish and forward our standards, not their standards. Right. Prime Minister hates us. He hates everything about Alberta. His father also hated this problem. Yes. Prime Minister doesn't even acknowledge it publicly that there is a province called Alberta. Do you really want to be subject to that kind of person that hates you and hates your children and will do everything in his power to stop the prosperity from coming to your children? So what is independence? Why we are here? Why did we even join this party? Because we want to be independent from them. That's the first thing. But also, we want to have our individual independence. That's why we need smaller government that is not infringing on our personal choices or preferences, like we have seen in the past 2 years, 2.5 years, who you can have coffee, who you can visit, with whom you're shopping, the digital ID that will be following you wherever you go, what you're buying, with whom you're spending your time. I mean, that's tyranny. That's total control. And you gotta remember, I grew up in a country with a total control, and I know how this movie ends, and it's not good. We have to change the script. Independence is freedom. That's why we are here. We want to be free people.
We talk holding the referendum on independence. We want to separate, plain and simple, right? We need to convince every Albertan about the benefits of independence and why exactly it's going to make them more prosperous and free and more secure and more safe. That's step one. Step two, we need to form a majority government. That means we need to fundraise. So the next 8 months is going to be quite critical. Step three, we need to have a clear question form. The Clarity Act requires us to have a clear question. The question needs to be clear because Ottawa will have the opportunity to challenge this clear question, and you can bet that they will. So the negotiations not only start today by convincing Albertans about the message of independence, but the negotiations are going to continue today, tomorrow, and until we achieve independence. Because when we form a new independent majority government, Ottawa will be calling us the next day saying, "What do you want?"
Yeah.
And we are going to say, too late. We are committed to the independence referendum, and we're going to hold that referendum. And so, but in addition, as soon as forming a majority government, we are going to be able to set the stage for it, create the police force, pension plan, taxation system. So we are going to move along those lines, but we can only do that if we form a majority government. And so that's the plan to move this forward. And then once we have a successful referendum, that's when the heavy work really starts to happen, because we are going to negotiate the biggest separation agreement Alberta has ever seen. They are diverse procurement. The liabilities need to be divided. Contracts need to be assigned. Trade agreements need to be negotiated. We have a lot of work to do, guys, and we can do it.
You're getting worse. The church breaks coffee. Wow. And I thought I had coffee. And that's cheating. Wow, here's the problem that happened. Here's the problem that happened. I say to you, enough of sitting down and negotiating with the predator that wants to eat us alive. I don't want to sit down with Ottawa anymore and talk things over. Have we not been seeing this being done for the past 50 years? They all talk. No offense to the lawyers, but they all talk. I don't want to talk anymore. I want to demand. I want to take what's rightfully mine. A position of power, strength, and that's why you need someone strong, someone that can, face the giant, if you will. I call it the head-on collision. I'm not afraid of head-on collision. When you gain the momentum, if we will build this party to a power horse, that I believe we can do it, we're going to come to Ottawa and say, back off or else. Back off or else. There were no more lawyers. I don't want to deal with lawyers and Ottawa for 20 years, back and forth. Supreme Court of Canada, let's walk. Yeah. They say that they're walk, they hate us, they hate the truckers, they hate freedom, and they are saying it publicly, we're going to negotiate with the Supreme Court, the corrupted globalistic court. No. We're going to come together, we're going to have the force, our own judges, who have our own police. I'm going to get the red card. We're going to have our own sheriffs, and we're going to say, back off or else, we're taking what's rightfully ours. We are taking Alberta. Yeah. We will let them come. We let them come. We will be ready. Bring it up. With coffee.
I love Castro's passion, and I have the same passion. I'm the only lawyer in Canada suing the courts, right? The thing is, we don't want aggression in a war. We can show strength by enforcing the rule of law. We can show strength in our behavior, because we are better than that. And I don't want our society, I don't want our Alberta to be in a place where where negotiation is not on the table. You know, we are a civilized society. We can say no more, and we will, because when we form a majority government, and we win, and we have a clear majority vote in favor of the referendum, Ottawa can't stop us. They can't. And at that point, we move on. Right? We move on and create the Alberta that we want. But we need, I believe wholeheartedly, this is what I do for a living, and I believe that we always need to be open with ears to listen. We always need to be a society that respects other opinions. Yes, we are going through a very difficult time, and we need to separate, because we need to divorce ourselves primarily from the globalist elites that have taken over Canada. And we need to make sure that this new Alberta does not have any ties with these globalist elites or any other institution or corporation that does not have and share Albertans' values. That's what we need to do. We need to be strategic about it. We need to be level-headed about it. And we need to show the rest of the world that we mean business, that we can be a country that they can trust to do business with. That's what we need. We need to talk and be strategic about it. And we will show strength in exactly what we're doing here today now.
Thank you, Catherine.
Let me ask you this question. Who is the aggressor? I mean, it's a very simple question. Who is the aggressor? Are Albertans the aggressors? Are you attacking Ottawa or Quebec? Are you saying anything to them? No, you just like me. You just want to be left alone.
That's right.
That's it. Yeah. You see, imagine David trying to say to Goliath, I'm going to negotiate with you, and I'm going to take this case to the Supreme Court of Canada. There's a time to negotiate, there's a time to fight. Yeah. They have forced us to rise up, to figure out what our future they want us to fight. We're not talking about guns and swords, we're talking about peaceful resolution, but we have to force them to sit down at our table where we are the strongest.
Yeah. That's right.
Where we have a position of strength. When you send a bunch of lawyers to them and say, we're going to tangle them with this crazy course for another 20 years. Some of you will be dead, no offense. You don't have time to wait 20 years while the lawyers will tackle the little legalities. Look, I'm fighting them 17 years already. What, I'm going to wait another 50? No, that's it. Enough is enough. We're taking our country back. We came here for a purpose. What was that purpose? So Ottawa can rule over us? No. We escaped one country, one tyranny, so another tyranny can take our children away? No, we are rising up and we're saying to Ottawa, back off. Back off. This is our country. This is our program. We can govern ourselves. You know that means. We have amazing people in this province. We can be the most prosperous province in this country. We can become Saudi Arabia of North America.
Sure we can.
Oh. I was just saying, okay, here's a new question that hasn't been asked yet. It's about our communication networks. How do we address our cellular issues concerning 5G? Where do we get the towers? Are there any other options for replacement? Can you give us some thoughts? That'd be Kat.
Well, there's actually a new policy that was presented, and I actually don't know the results of whether or not that policy was adopted. It was adopted, right? So, yeah, the TIP party, and I supported it as well. We need to do a review, of course, in terms of understanding the magnitude of 5G radiation. And of course, once we know, and I suspect the results will be obvious to us, once we do that, that we need to outlaw that sort of interference and those sorts of harmful radiation and other ways that are impacting our health. Certainly, we cannot endorse 5G to the extent that it is harmful to our bodies and our health and our children's health. And so I know that that's something that the Independence Party of Alberta is going to be looking into to ensure that we eradicate that sort of EMF radiation and the problems that go along with it. But it's not just that. Like, if you look at the sky and the crisscrossing, all that chemtrail stuff, right? So it's all of that, right? We need to get rid of all of that. We need to get rid of the Monsantos. We need to make sure that people are growing real food and that there aren't these chemicals being emitted into our environment that are really causing us to be sick. So that stuff, that's the kind of stuff that an Independence Party, a person like myself, will expose and bring the truth to Albertans and stop these programs that are hurting and harming Albertans.
We need to hire experts that will closely look at what is going on with the game and with all the planes spraying some kind of metals for us to breathe and then eat with our food. So we have to hire experts. We're not experts, so I'm not going to even pretend that I am. I know that there are already thousands of stories that when the 5G was activated, people are getting very sick, children cannot sleep, even animals are affected, birds are dropping dead. So we know there's something going on, but we need to hire professionals to look with the professional equipment and find out what's really going on. Here's an interesting fact that I was told. Remember, Walmart and other places, in some places, they have implemented the eye scanner. So when you walk in, they are scanning your eyes. And I was told that the eye scanner is not working unless you have metals in your body. And then I was told that what they're spraying in the air is metal. So it enables the technology to actually scan you and know who you are. So I don't know, we have to get the experts to find out if this is really true. I was told that it is. But that's what the government has power to hire experts, to hire real scientists, not Incha, not Tom, not the wannabe doctors, but real people that will actually look at this situation and tell us what's really going on. Because we know we are right now being subjected with this idea of depopulation, everything they're doing. And by the way, that's why they want you to eat bugs. I don't know if you know that. 80% of the crickets are filled with parasites. I don't know if you know that. So they're replacing healthy food with this garbage that eventually is going to hurt people and kill them. So there is an agenda, definitely. By the way, I'm I constantly see this red in my face, like a blue.
So we have one more question, and then we're going to do our candidates for 5 minutes each for the closing remarks. But this is just a quick question. We'll just do 1 minute.
I don't even think we need 1 minute for this one.
Well,
Maybe 15, 20 seconds.
So, if you see Elliot coming towards you, how would that make you feel?
But I think he looks like a big old chicken there.
I would say to you, and to you, I am, I'm happy I'm not a corrupted politician.
So that concludes the questions, and Pastor Art to 5 minutes for his closing remarks.
So So when you're looking at me, when you're thinking, why should we vote for a man like me? I mean, listen to his English language. He's not skilled, he's not a professional politician, he's not looking for a career. Someone called me a few days ago and said, what if people will not vote for you? I said, so what? If you don't want a fighter, a warrior, a person that fought with the giants for the past 17 years and prevailed, if you don't want a guy that will not take the knee, if you don't want to have a person that will not bow before the globalist devils, if you don't want to have a person that will not be bribed, scared, then don't.
That's right.
Vote for Chandra, the snake. I mean, there are plenty of viruses and scorpions crawling around. You can, pick your choice. You've got a revolving door for the past 50 years. What have we been doing? We are using the scare tactic. So if you don't vote for the conservatives, then NDPs will get it. If you vote for us, and look, we have been doing this. I'm guilty. I have been doing this all those years. Look at us today. We're fighting for our lives. We're fighting for the future of our children. It's time to stop talking. It's time to start doing. Another thing I want to say, we cannot do this without God. No, we can't. You can have a prosperous Alberta by kicking God out, and while when he leaves prosperity. That's right. That's right. I spent time in the trenches. I have been proven. They tried to bribe me. Even a few weeks ago, your city government came to me trying to bribe me. And here's what they said: we give you a cushy, a nice job, fancy title, good money, just don't run for political office. $2 million bribe, $2 million and a lunch. And here's what they said: we'll give you $2 million and a lunch so you can build your fancy church. And I said, you keep your money, I'm keeping my Jesus. All things to me, I didn't have the past and see, because I am not like the rest. I actually believe in the Bible. I believe in moral standards. I love my children, and you know what? I was offered to stay in the United States of America. They were giving me money, they were giving me a lunch, they were giving me a shirt, they were giving me everything. And I stood in front of tens of thousands of people, and I said, Canadian children are worth fighting for. And I was tackled by Gestapo again, and arrested in criminal charge. Why? Because I dared to open the church. Well, my church is still open. Right? I know intention of shutting it down. I said to them when I was in solitary confinement, I said, you will have to shoot me dead because I'm not quitting. And he said, raise the bed. I'm angry. I'm angry at the level of corruption that we have seen. So if you want a man like that, a man that will do the job. In a time of war, who are you looking for? A teacher? Sorry, a lawyer? Or for a warrior? I'm ready to stand up and fight, and I will fight with you until the last. I've been doing this for 23 years. 104 cases, 16 arrests, 340 tickets. And here's what I learned about our so-called justice system. They will drag it, and they will drag it, and they will drag it forever until you're either dead or you quit. We have to change what we have been doing for the past 50 years. First of all, do not, and I agree with Catherine, do not vote for a lesser evil. Voting for lesser evil is still voting for it. That's right. If I present to you a scorpion, a viper, and a snake, who are you going to vote for? We have compromised parties everywhere. We have traitors in UCP. We have crazy liberals that hate you. And we got the destroyers, the communist, socialist, NDP. Who are you going to vote for? The warriors. You gotta vote for someone new, grassroots movement. People that actually love you. I said I will not be taking a salary because this is not a career move. I'm not looking for extra buck. I have a job, I'm a pastor, and I will remain a pastor, even if elected. I want to make a change. I want to win.
Yeah.
And that's my real fight.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being here tonight. I hope you did something that has resonated with you. And yeah, I have no doubt this decision that you have to make with respect to the leadership position is going to be challenging because we do share a lot of the same opinions. You know, I sat in with Todd Bowen, was announcing that he was going to become leader. He stated two things. He said that one, Jason Kenney and Stephen Harper are going to be behind the strings, pulling the strings of the UCP, but regardless of who gets that right to the leadership, right? And the other thing he said was that the bureaucracy is the problem. The bureaucracy, no matter who gets into government, they have an agenda, so they have to go. The bureaucracy has to be fired. Those people who are responsible for this tyranny and have overstayed their welcome, they have to go. So we understand that. And so we also understand that all of the MLAs that are seeking re-election, all of them in our province, none of them deserves to be re-elected because none of them. Resignation, that's peanuts. In fact, Todd Bowen, what he did, also attended a meeting with doctors Malone, Alexander, Moultrie, and Hodgkinson in November of 2021. And at that meeting, they told him, and 9 other MLAs, Shane Getson, Nathan Cooper being one of them, 2 of them, of the harms of the vaccine, and they were urged to stop the vaccine program. Shane Getson was supposed to table that legislation, that information in the legislation. That never happened. The NDP government behind the booster campaign. UCP government behind the booster campaign.
Yeah.
We understand. Gina Henshaw, hee-haw, like I like to call her. Hee-haw. It's likely perjured herself over the vaccine
Oh, yeah.
BS that she has, that is befallen Alberta. She knew, and Jason Kenney knew, full on and full well, that masking children in an educational setting would cause harm. They knew that, and that information is out. And so what do we do when we know better? Yep. We do better. Yeah. Okay? And so we cannot afford anymore to ignore and to give these people the benefit of the doubt that they are going to make any changes that are going to positively impact the lives of Albertans. They want net zero. They support the globalist agenda. They see what they're doing, what we're doing right now, and they're latching on, right? They are saying, they're trying to parrot stuff to get your attention, to lull you into this false sense of security, that a sovereignty act with access that's unconstitutional and won't achieve anything is going to give you the freedom that you desire here tonight. And you know what? I am that lawyer. I've said, I'm the only lawyer in Canada suing the courts, a major career limiting move, I would say. I've been fighting for people to assert their rights for the last 2 years on stages, in media, wherever I possibly can. And you know what? I was able to do it without getting a ticket miraculously, without being thrown in jail. So you know what? There is a different way to do this that doesn't need to include that. And what happened to Pastor Art was horrible. Yeah. I do not agree with it 100%, and that needs to be changed. And what happened should never have occurred. It's disgusting in the democratic society that we live in. But you know what? There is a different way that we need to do this. And if we are going to be a country that recognizes the principles that include the supremacy of God, number one, and the rule of law, we need to be reasoned in our approach. We need to follow the rule of law. We don't need to fall off on some sort of tangent that's going to make us look weak. And I think when you have that sort of aggression, when you lead with that sort of aggression, you miss the opportunity to build the bridges that we need to build right now. And really, step one, what is step one of the plan? Step one of the plan is to engage every Albertan, to tell them about the merits of independence, to make sure that they all feel welcome here. to make sure that they understand that they will be more prosperous. And we can only do that when we all come together with that unified goal of ensuring that no Albertan is left behind and that we work together towards a common goal.